My parents ignored my wedding, but when they saw my $135,000 Porsche, suddenly I was family again. They didn't come to my wedding. Not a text, not a call, not even a seat filled in the front row. I walked down that aisle alone, telling myself their absence didn't hurt. But years later, when success finally found me when I pulled into their driveway in a $135,000 Porsche, suddenly, I was family again. That's when I learned the painful truth. Some people only love you when you're useful. This is the story of how I stopped chasing approval and started owning my worth. Now don't forget to subscribe to USLA1 Stories. Share this channel with your friends and relatives, and leave a comment about what you felt. And now I invite you and everyone to watch the video and listen to the story. Alone in the opulent bridal suite of Willow Creek Estate, Elara gazed at her reflection. The dress, a masterpiece of silk and lace, draped perfectly. Her makeup artist had transformed her, enhancing features with subtle artistry. On the vanity, a bouquet of white roses lay untouched, mirroring the stillness in the room. Her phone remained silent, a stark contrast to the buzzing excitement usually associated with a wedding day. No message from Elaine, her mother, nothing from Richard, her father, not even a token text from Brandon, her brother. A gentle knock preceded Brenda, the wedding planner, whose professional smile couldn't quite mask a flicker of apprehension. "It's time, Elara. Are you ready?" Elara's eyes drifted to the 3 empty seats in the front row of the ceremony space below, glaring voids amidst the 90 seated guests, and the soft melody of the string quartet. "They're not coming, are they?" Her voice wavered, betraying the calm she tried to project. Brenda's smile faltered. "There's still time," she offered. A white lie they both recognized. Taking a deep breath, Elara smoothed her gown. "Let's go." As the garden doors opened, 90 heads turned. The sympathetic gazes felt like physical touches, small pats of pity that made her skin prickle. Whispers followed her down the aisle, mixing with encouraging smiles that only amplified the hollow ache in her chest. Her focus narrowed to Alex, waiting at the altar, his eyes a steady anchor. The love radiating from him was a shield, barely repelling the memory of Elaine's dismissive tone 3 days prior. "We'll try, sweetie. Brandon's firm has an event that weekend." It had felt like declining a casual lunch, not her only daughter's wedding. "I can pay for the flights, the hotel, anything. Please, Mom." Elara had pleaded, desperation clawing at her throat. Richard's voice had drifted from the background. "Tell her we're busy." Now, Elara forced herself to breathe, one foot in front of the other. She would not cry. She would not give them the satisfaction, even in their absence. When she reached Alex, his warm, solid hands enveloped hers. "I'm here," he whispered, his voice a private vow. "We're enough." For a moment, she was 8 again, watching Elaine and Richard fawn over Brandon's debate trophy. It was meticulously placed on the mantel, admired from every angle, photographed for relatives. Her art contest certificate, proudly presented earlier that day with tales of her teacher praising her exceptional talent, sat forgotten in a kitchen drawer. "That's nice, honey," Elaine had murmured, before returning to dinner prep. Richard, later, had absently ruffled her hair, explaining, "Brandon needs more support. He's going places. You understand, don't you, Elara?" And Elaine, ever consistent, "Why can't you be more like your brother? He focuses on what matters." This early pattern established a relentless chase for approval, each academic award, scholarship, and business success a desperate attempt to turn their heads. Each was met with, at best, a distracted acknowledgement. The ceremony unfolded. Elara's vows, gaining strength with each promise, spoke of choosing a future based on seeing each other clearly, words that resonated with Alex in a profound way. When pronounced husband and wife, Alex's mother, a beacon of warmth, embraced her. "You're one of us now, dear," she whispered, and a tightness in Elara's chest eased. On the dance floor, Alex twirled her under string lights, his cousins forming a circle of laughter. For moments, the family-shaped void, the checked phone, the whispered explanations to curious guests faded. Chloe, her college roommate, raised her glass at the reception. "To finding the family who deserves you," she declared, her eyes unwavering. A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. The truth hit Elara with a visceral force. All these years, she had been invisible to those who should have seen her most clearly, chasing approval from people who never intended to give it. Slipping away, she checked her phone one last time. Still blank. Alex found her. "They missed something beautiful today," he said, his arm wrapping around her. She looked at the man who had never made her feel she needed to earn his attention, at his family who welcomed her without reservation. She thought of friends who traveled cross-country. Setting the phone down, a lightness she hadn't felt in years settled over her. "Their choice," she affirmed, "not my burden." For the first time, she almost believed it. 2 years later, Elara leaned back in her ergonomic chair, the screen confirming. Acquisition of Crescent Motion Studio, finalized at $21 million. 2 years of intense negotiation. 5 years of building from scratch, validation in 8 figures. The office door burst open, her team flooding in with champagne. To Elara, Zara, her creative director, toasted, "The woman who built something from nothing while certain people weren't looking." Elara smiled, clinking glasses with 12 people who had times shown up times for her. Amidst the celebration, her phone buzzed, an Instagram notification. Brandon's post, "Family tradition continues. 3rd generation at Westridge Academy." A picture of Elaine and Richard flanking Brandon and Bethany, their identical daughters in matching plaid. The caption highlighted a world of private schools, Hawaiian vacations, and multi-million-dollar homes, a life fully propped up by her parents' dwindling retirement, as whispered by distant cousins who occasionally remembered Elara existed. The stark contrast between Brandon's conspicuous consumption and her own quiet wealth was apparent, a testament to different paths and values. "Elara?" Zara touched her arm. "Lost you for a minute." Elara locked her screen. "Just checking messages. Where were we?" The celebration continued, but her mind calculated. Brandon's law firm, moderately successful, could not sustain his lifestyle. Her parents had been funding an illusion, depleting their resources to maintain an image. Her $21 million acquisition, however, garnered no text, no acknowledgement. After her team left, Elara scrolled through her parents' social media. Hundreds of posts about Brandon's accomplishments, the twins' milestones, family gatherings. Her existence was a single, generic birthday wish last year, sans photo. She closed her laptop, a decision solidified. The next morning, a metallic gray Porsche Taycan became hers, a $135,000 statement. Extravagant, unnecessary, and exactly what she wanted. Not for their approval, but because she never needed their money. Back home, she photographed the car in her driveway, afternoon sun gleaming off its finish, and posted it to Instagram, dreams realized. For 3 days, silence. Then, on Wednesday afternoon, her phone lit up with a name unseen in 5 years, Elaine calling. Her stomach tightened. "Hello? Elara. We need to talk. Family meeting tomorrow." Elaine's voice, a blend of authority and urgency reserved for crises. Family meeting. Elara repeated, disbelief tinging her voice. After 5 years of silence, now times you're calling about a family meeting. This is important. A pause. Richard's voice drifted in the background. Tell her it's important. What's important? Elara asked, her voice firm. My wedding wasn't important. My business wasn't important. What exactly matters now? And Elaine's voice tightened. It's complicated. Financial issues. We need to discuss it as a family. Of course. They saw the car. They knew about the acquisition. Now, suddenly she was family again. Tomorrow at 2. Elara said, hanging up. The next morning, she slid into the Porsche's cool leather seat. The 40-minute drive to her childhood home was a journey through memories, birthdays, achievements, holidays, all spent without her. She parked in the circular driveway, the sleek, modern Porsche a stark contrast to their traditional colonial. The last time she'd stood on that porch was 6 years ago, announcing her engagement to Alex. Elaine had nodded politely while Richard repeatedly checked his watch, clearly eager for her departure. They've never needed me before. Why now? Alex's text buzzed. Remember who you are. Call me if you need extraction. A smile touched her lips. Another notification, an email from Dr. Anya Sharma, the investor who believed in crescent motion when no one else would. Your worth isn't measured by those who couldn't see it. A final alert from her assistant, don't let them take too much time. Production review at 4. Taking a deep breath, Elara recalled Dr. Evelyn Reed's words. Boundaries aren't punishments, they're protection. She straightened her shoulders and stepped out. Before she could knock, the front door swung open. Elaine and Richard stood there, their expressions morphing from annoyance to shock as they took in the Porsche. You've done well for yourself, Richard stated. No warmth, just an assessment of financial worth. Yes, Elara replied simply. No hugs, no pleasantries. They led her to the dining room, where Brandon and Bethany already sat, their faces a study in calculated concern. Elara, Brandon nodded, as if they'd spoken last week. Let's get straight to business, Richard said, pulling out financial folders. Elara remained standing, her purse gripped tight, the only outward sign of her internal turmoil. No. First, I'd like to know why I'm suddenly important enough to include in family discussions after being excluded for years. Elaine and Richard exchanged glances. Brandon shifted. We can discuss that later, Elaine said, her dismissive tone familiar. We have more pressing matters now. I'm not in a rush, Elara replied, still standing. And I'm not interested in being convenient family only when you need something. For the first time, uncertainty flickered across Richard's face. In that moment, Elara understood. They needed her now, and for once, she held the power to decide. The dining room, once a stage for silent judgment, felt strangely smaller now. Richard, presiding at the head of the table like a corporate chairman, gripped financial folders. Elaine perched beside him, her posture rigid, worry lines etched on her forehead. Across, Brandon slumped, his designer shirt wrinkled, an emblem of his crumbling facade. Bethany sat beside him, a leather photo album on her lap. It's foreclosure, Elara. Richard's voice, usually unshakable, trembled slightly. Brandon's mortgage is 3 months behind. The twins' private school tuition is unpaid this semester. Elara said nothing, letting the loaded silence stretch. 2 years of no contact, and this was their reunion. You need to help your brother. Richard slid loan paperwork across the polished oak table, already filled out. The sheer presumption stole Elara's breath. Think about your nieces. Elaine's voice caught, a practiced hitch that once would have sent Elara scrambling. They're just children. They shouldn't suffer because of financial difficulties. Brandon leaned forward, eyes narrowed. We're family. That's what family does. When one of us succeeds, we help the others. Bethany flipped the album open wider. They ask about Aunt Elara all the time. She pointed to photos of children Elara barely recognized, shining at a birthday party she wasn't invited to. Maddie wants to know why you never visit. Richard cleared his throat. We've done everything we could. Our retirement fund is. He trailed off, exchanging a look with Elaine. We've been supporting them as best we can. The implication hung heavy. Elara's success meant she owed them. Her independence was selfish in the face of family need. This dynamic, where the designated failure, Brandon, was propped up by parents at the expense of the successful but overlooked daughter, reflected a common societal pressure to maintain a certain image, even at the cost of genuine connection and fiscal prudence. Elara closed the photo album, sliding it back. Where were you at my wedding? The question, surprisingly calm, sliced through the tension. Brandon blinked. What? My wedding? 2 years ago. Where were you? Elaine's hand flew to her throat. We were busy. Brandon had that event with his firm. It wasn't convenient, Richard added, as if dismissing a dinner invitation. Elara nodded slowly, a hard truth crystallizing. And yet here you are now, because you saw the Porsche on Instagram. You only contacted me because you saw the car. Brandon's face flushed. That's not fair. Isn't it? Elara sat straighter, feeling the power of her financial independence in her spine. Where there was once an anxious curve, there was now steel. I built everything alone. Every scholarship. Every client. Every late night. Where were any of you? Richard's eyes narrowed. What's that got to do with the current situation? Everything. Elara folded her hands, mirroring his posture. I'm listening. Tell me why I should write a check today. Brandon slammed his hand on the table. You always had to prove something. Always showing off how smart you were, how creative, how special. Some of us were just trying to live normal lives. Richard's hand settled on Brandon's shoulder. Your brother had more potential. We had to nurture that. You were always so independent. We're still your parents, Elaine whispered, tears gathering. Despite everything, you were parents in title only. Elara's voice remained steady. You missed my high school graduation. You missed my college scholarship ceremony. You missed the launch of my company. You missed my wedding. She tapped the table with each missed milestone. You missed my life. And now you want to share in what that life has built. Elara, Richard began. You didn't build this success, she continued. You don't get to share it. Her phone vibrated. Alex's message. You okay? Meeting running long. The sight of his name brought back Dr. Anya Sharma's words when she invested in Elara's startup. You don't need approval from anyone who can't see your light. She thought of her team at Crescent Motion, their faces shining as they toasted the acquisition, people who chose to see her, support her, believe in what she could build. In her briefcase rested the contract for the foundation funding, signed by the board last Tuesday, a testament to people who trusted her with purpose, not just money. Richard slid the loan paperwork closer. We're only asking for what's reasonable. Family helps family. The interest rate is quite fair, Elaine added, as if offering a favor. Brandon's smirk returned. Blood is thicker than water, Caro. Elara stood slowly, deliberately, drawing their eyes, their bodies leaning forward expectantly. She reached for her briefcase, setting it on the table with a soft thud. "I've made a different decision," she said. Brandon's eyes fixed on her hands as she unlatched the briefcase. Richard shifted. Elaine's fingers twisted her napkin. Instead of a checkbook, Elara withdrew a single document. "This is the announcement for the Miss Chen Media Scholarship Foundation. $16 million to create opportunities for young women in digital media arts." She smoothed the paper. "The press release goes out tomorrow morning. $16 million. Brandon choked out the number. "Named after Miss Chen, my high school media arts teacher. The woman who attended my gallery showings when my family was too busy." She explained the money was legally protected in a foundation trust, the allocation approved by the board last week. Silence, heavy as concrete, fell across the table. "I'm helping girls who never got the applause I didn't get," Elara said, gathering her belongings. "That's what family means to me." Brandon's face contorted, veins standing out. "You're wasting it on strangers. On nobody girls who deserve better than what I got." Elara snapped her briefcase closed. "Girls who need someone to invest in them." Her parents sat stunned, staring at the paper that represented millions they would never touch. Elara picked up her phone, turning the screen toward them. A recording app displayed an active timer. "I've also documented every manipulative message from today," she said quietly. "Every threat, every demand, every guilt trip, just in case anyone gets creative with legal claims against the foundation." She walked towards the door, her footsteps echoing. Behind her, Brandon's chair scraped back violently. "You can't just leave." His voice cracked. "We need that money." Elara paused at the threshold, not turning back. "No, Brandon. What you needed was to show up. At my graduation, at my company launch, at my wedding." She placed her hand on the doorknob. "But that opportunity has passed." The door closed with a soft click that sounded like freedom. The Porsche purred as Elara drove away, her knuckles no longer white on the steering wheel. The further she got, the steadier her hands became. "It's done," she told Alex when he answered. "They showed exactly who they are." "How bad was it?" "See." His voice filled the car, wrapped in concern. "Exactly what we expected." Brandon lost his mind. Richard tried to salvage it, but Elaine just kept crying about family obligation. "Are you okay?" Alex asked. Elara glanced in the rearview mirror. No tears, no flush of embarrassment, only a clear-eyed woman. "I'm better than okay." For the first time, I saw them clearly, without hoping for something different. "I'm proud of you," Alex said. "Foundation board meeting at 9 tomorrow. Everything's ready for the press announcement." The timing had been deliberate. Establish the foundation legally before any family confrontation. Schedule the announcement before they could regroup. No emotional pleas, just legal structures they couldn't penetrate. The Miss Chen Media Scholarship would be her legacy, not a family drama. "I'll be ready," she promised. The first message came at 11:47 p.m. By midnight, her phone buzzed continuously with family emergency texts. She silenced it, placing it face down. The house was quiet save for Alex's steady breathing. She didn't need to read their messages to know their content. Morning brought 6 voicemails from Elaine, a progression from weepy pleas about family unity to sharp accusations of betrayal, culminating in threats about what people will think of a daughter abandoning her family. "You've dealt with worse," Elara told herself, applying mascara. Her navy suit, the one she wore for the acquisition signing, hung ready. Alex handed her coffee. "Brandon's been calling business associates," he he said, scrolling. And your dad tried reaching my uncle. Predictable. She sipped the bitter, fortifying coffee. They're moving faster than I expected, but not more cleverly. The foundation board meeting went smoothly. 12 accomplished women from media and finance, all vetted, all committed to supporting young female artists. The press release was approved unanimously. The first scholarship recipient would be selected in 6 months. Elara was reviewing event venue proposals when Janine from reception called. Miss Hayes, your family is here. They're causing quite a scene. Through her office's glass walls, security moved toward the lobby. She straightened papers that didn't need straightening. Have security escort them out, please. Calmly and professionally. Elaine's voice rose over the office hum. My daughter is abandoning her family. Her hands gestured wildly. Brandon stood beside her, arms crossed, face flushed. Her team watched her for cues. Elara stood, smoothed her skirt, and walked to her door. It's being handled, she said with a calm she'd practiced for this moment. Let's continue our work. Security escorted her family towards the elevators. Brandon's voice carried back. This isn't over. We have family obligations you can't just ignore. That evening, Elara drafted a single email to all 3. I have documented your harassment at my workplace. Any further attempts to contact me at my office will result in a formal complaint. All communication regarding family matters must be directed through my attorney, whose contact information is attached. Elara. Direct and clear, Dr. Evelyn Reed, her therapist, observed 2 days later. How did it feel sending that? Necessary. Elara traced the armchair pattern. Not satisfying. Exactly. More like setting a boundary. Dr. Reed offered. Yes, Elara looked up. They're showing who they've always been, aren't they? People tend to reveal themselves under pressure. Dr. Reed affirmed. What you're seeing now isn't new behavior, just intensified. The realization washed over Elara, simple but profound. I wanted their love, but they wanted my resources. That's an important distinction. All those years, Elara reflected, the childhood neglect, the absent parents, their appearance only when she had something to offer. It wasn't her job to earn their love, it was their job to give it freely. And now I know I'm not responsible for fixing them, she said, feeling the truth settle in her bones. There's freedom in that. The next morning, news broke that Brandon had contacted the Portland Chronicle about a family dispute. The reporter, smarter than Brandon anticipated, asked why none of them attended Elara's wedding. The resulting story painted a picture Brandon hadn't intended. Parents absent during milestones, suddenly interested when money appeared. Elaine's social media rant generated an unexpected wave of support for Elara. Former classmates, business associates, even distant relatives, reached out. We always wondered why they never talked about your success, wrote cousin Daniel. Richard's attempts to contact Elara's investors fizzled. The community rallied around the Scholarship Foundation instead, applications pouring in. The Portland Business Journal requested an interview. Elara agreed, setting clear parameters, discussing the scholarship's purpose and impact, not family matters. Sophia Grant, the reporter, met her at the foundation's temporary office. This is an impressive initiative. $16 million is substantial seed funding. What inspired such generosity? Elara considered her words carefully. I had a teacher who saw potential in me when others didn't. Miss Chen changed my life by simply paying attention. I want to create that opportunity for young women who might otherwise be overlooked. You've built an impressive career. Sophia noted. Crescent Motion's acquisition was one of the biggest tech stories last year. Is your family proud? The question hung. Elara met her eyes. My success was built without family support. They weren't at my wedding, my graduation, or when I sold my company. Sophia's pen paused. That provides interesting context for the Foundation's mission. Later that week, the article appeared. Self-made success creates legacy of support. The contrast between Elara's generosity and her family's entitlement became public narrative. When news of Brandon's house foreclosure broke days later, the community connected the dots. Alex handled increased security protocols at their home. Her business team managed communication strategy, prioritizing foundation work. Dr. Anya Sharma released a statement supporting Elara's commitment to lifting others rather than enabling dependency. Her college friends formed a protective circle, filling their calendar with dinners and events. Dr. Evelyn Reed provided anchoring during weekly sessions. This united front became its own kind of family, chosen, intentional, supportive. 2 weeks after the confrontation, Elara received the Business Leadership Award from the Women in Media Alliance. Standing at the podium, looking at faces that genuinely celebrated her success, she realized the tables had completely turned. Her parents' retirement plans were delayed indefinitely. Bethany's social position in her country club circles eroded with their financial collapse. Brandon's twins would transfer to public school next semester. Meanwhile, the foundation thrived, generating positive coverage that spread beyond Portland. The story resonated not because Elara sought revenge, but because she chose to transform pain into purpose. The scholarship committee has selected 3 finalists for the first award, G9 told her, placing portfolios on her desk. They'd like your input by Friday. Elara opened the first file, reviewing the work of a young woman whose teacher noticed her talent when no one else did. The circle completed itself, healing through action rather than looking backward. Family defined by what it does, not what it claims to be. For the first time, Elara felt truly seen. In the weeks that followed, Elara deleted the 4th voicemail from Aunt Vivian without listening past her plea of, "Everyone misses you, Elara." The Thanksgiving invitation sat in her inbox. Its subject line, "Family needs to be together," was a transparent attempt at manipulation. Her phone chimed with a text from cousin Daniel. "I don't understand this rift between you and Uncle Richard. Can't you just talk to them?" Of course he didn't understand. He wasn't at her empty wedding. He didn't witness 20 years of invisibility. A letter arrived yesterday from Elaine, her elegant handwriting unmistakable. "We always believed in you," she wrote, as if rewriting their history. The envelope sat half-burned in her fireplace, its edges curled and blackened like the lies it contained. Richard called her office directly last week. "We need to clear the air," he said, his voice devoid of any acknowledgement of their past actions. Her assistant, following strict instructions, told him Elara was unavailable permanently. The final straw came when Brandon sent the twins to her office with handmade cards. "We miss Aunt Elara," written in childish handwriting she knew wasn't theirs. The manipulation was so transparent it made her stomach turn. "They're using every emotional lever they can find," Alex observed that evening, examining the cards. "They're desperate." Elara flipped through the week's collection of attempts. But they still hadn't actually apologized. The family attorney called next, his voice professionally neutral. "There are moral obligations to consider, Elara. Family ties carry certain responsibilities." The implication was clear. She was the villain in their story, the heartless daughter who abandoned her struggling family. Reverend Miller from the church she'd stopped attending years ago left a voicemail. Your parents are deeply concerned. Perhaps we could meet to discuss reconciliation? Two childhood friends, neither of whom she'd spoken to in a decade, suddenly reached out. Your parents seem so heartbroken, said one. The holidays are for forgiveness, said the other. When Brandon's wife Bethany emailed photos of the twins in Halloween costumes, the children ask about you constantly, Elara nearly threw her phone. They're framing this entire situation as my responsibility, she told Dr. Evelyn Reed. My forgiveness, my duty, my failure to be the bigger person. And how does that make you feel? Dr. Reed asked. Angry, Elara admitted. But also, validated. They wouldn't fight this hard if they weren't afraid of losing control. The foundation's selection meeting provided an unexpected challenge. The committee recommended a scholarship for Serena Thorne, a 17-year-old filmmaker whose application video showed remarkable talent and painful familiarity. She reminds me of myself, Elara told Alex that night. Quiet, determined, overlooked. She watched Serena's interview again. Serena's eyes held the same weariness Elara saw in her own wedding photos. She talked about finding her voice through filmmaking when her family couldn't hear her. What if I'm wrong to cut them off completely? The question slipped out. Alex sat beside her. What brought this on? Serena. If I'm telling these girls to find their strength, am I modeling that by running away from my family? Is setting boundaries running away? Alex asked. Elara considered this. No, boundaries aren't abandonment. What would you tell Serena if her family treated her like yours treated you? The answer came easily. I'd tell her she deserves people who see her worth. The Thursday before Thanksgiving, Elara hosted dinner at their home. The dining room table extended to accommodate everyone. Alex beside her, Dr. Anya Sharma across, her business team scattered between. Serena sat at the opposite end, her scholarship certificate framed on the sideboard. Their home glowed with a warmth her parents' house never had. Candles flickered, laughter rang. No one here needed to prove their worth to be seen. Elara raised her glass. To those who see us as we are. The toast echoed. Her phone stayed off. The meal unfolded, conversations flowing without the undercurrent of judgment she grew up with. Over dessert, she announced the foundation's new mentorship program. I'll be personally involved with each recipient, she explained. We're creating connections that matter. Serena's eyes widened. You'll be mentoring us yourself? Every step of the way, Elara smiled. This foundation isn't just about money, it's about building something meaningful together. Dr. Anya Sharma nodded approvingly. You've created structures that can't be interfered with. The foundation's independence is legally secured. Elara confirmed. Its success will be measured by impact, not approval. Later, as they cleared plates, Alex turned on the local news. Right on schedule, the feature about the foundation aired, strategically timed to coincide with her family's traditional dinner hour. On screen, Elara spoke with earned confidence. We build family through action, not obligation. The report transitioned to financial analysis, contrasting the foundation's transparent governance with examples of mismanagement, including a not-so-subtle reference to Brandon's business failures. Serena watched, transfixed. They're actually comparing your brother's company to the foundation. Facts speak for themselves. Elara stacked dessert plates with steady hands. The community has validated what my family refused to see. The following morning, her parents requested a meeting at a coffee shop downtown. Elara arrived in the Porsche, the car that triggered their sudden interest after years of silence. Richard looked older, defeat etched around his mouth. "We should have been there," he admitted, staring at his untouched coffee. "At the wedding?" Elara asked, though she knew that wasn't all he meant. "Everywhere," his voice cracked. "All those years." Elaine's eyes shimmered. "How can we fix this?" The question hung. 3 months ago, Elara might have grabbed at this opening, desperate for acknowledgement. Now she felt only calm clarity. "Some things can't be fixed," she told them. "Only accepted." Elaine flinched. "I'm not closing the door forever," Elara continued. "But I need accountability, not convenience. I'll consider limited contact after you both start therapy." "That's unnecessary," Richard began, the old dismissiveness rising. "It's non-negotiable." Elara sipped her tea, warmth spreading through her chest like certainty. They exchanged glances, the silent communication of people who never expected consequences for their choices. Brandon's financial collapse had stripped away their illusions of his superiority. Elara's success existed beyond their reach. The foundation thrived, independent of their approval. When they left, no agreements had been made, no concessions offered. Elara watched them walk to their car, a sensible sedan now, the luxury vehicles long gone. She drove away without looking back, freedom replacing obligation in every beat of her heart. The foundation awaited. Serena's project needed review. Her chosen family expected her for dinner. For the first time, Elara was moving toward something instead of away from someone. And that made all the difference. Elara stood in the sunlit studio of the Crescent Foundation, watching Serena adjust her camera settings. Morning light filtered through tall windows, casting golden patterns across the polished hardwood floor. It had been a year since she faced her family for the last time. "What do you think about this angle?" Serena looked up, her eyes bright with the same creative fire Miss Chen once saw in Elara's. "Try moving it slightly to the left. Catch how the light falls across the subject." Her voice carried the confidence of a mentor now, not the desperate plea of a daughter seeking approval. On the wall behind Serena, photos documented their scholarship recipients' projects, stories they never could have told without the foundation's support. Each frame represented a voice that might have been silenced, just as Elara's nearly was. Her office here replaced the childhood bedroom where she once dreamed of being seen. Every element, from the ergonomic chair to the awards displayed without apology on floating shelves, Elara chose deliberately. Nothing inherited, nothing tainted by obligation or guilt. "I've finished the final cut of my documentary," Serena said, straightening up. "Would you watch it with me?" They moved to the editing bay, where Serena's project played on the high-definition monitor. The documentary followed 3 generations of women in a rural Oregon family, their struggles and resiliences beautifully captured through Serena's lens. Watching her work, Elara felt a swell of pride entirely different from anything she'd known before. This wasn't about her. It was about what Serena created, what she would continue to create. When the final credits rolled, Serena turned to her, tears brightening her eyes. "You're the reason I believe I can do this," she said, wrapping her arms around Elara in a spontaneous hug. Elara thought of Miss Chen, how she recognized something in her when her own parents couldn't be bothered, how her belief sustained her through years of family indifference. Now the cycle continued, not of neglect, but of genuine support. Later that week, Elara stood at the podium of the Portland Arts Center, accepting a Community Leadership Award. The audience applauded. A sea of faces turned towards her with appreciation, not pity. Alex sat in the front row, beaming with unrestrained pride. There were no empty seats causing her pain tonight, no phantom family members she wished were here. Every person in this room saw her, truly saw her for who she was. Thank you, Elara began, her voice steady. This journey began in invisibility and has led to impact. For years, I measured my worth by the approval I couldn't earn from people who refused to give it. She paused, her gaze sweeping across the room. Now I measure it by what we build together. The standing ovation washed over her like a cleansing wave. Dr. Evelyn Reed called it post-traumatic growth. This strange peace Elara had found after accepting that some wounds never fully heal. She maintained careful boundaries with extended family, holiday gatherings now centered around chosen family, celebrations filled with genuine joy rather than dread. Alex and Elara had established their own traditions. Dr. Anya Sharma's retirement party at the foundation last month brought together the circles of support that lifted Elara when blood ties failed. The emergency fund for students facing financial hardship, her latest project, ensured that talent wasn't crushed by circumstance. She understood now what these young women needed because she lived without it: unconditional belief in their potential. Driving home through Portland in her Porsche, Elara passed the coffee shop where she once edited videos on a borrowed laptop. Through the window, she caught a glimpse of her parents walking on the sidewalk. Their eyes met briefly. Elara didn't stop. There was no pain in this moment, only peaceful acknowledgement. They taught her what love isn't. Alex and her work taught her what it is. Tomorrow, Serena would set up for her next project. Elara would be there, camera in hand, showing her techniques she'd mastered over years of making herself visible. Family isn't who raises you, it's who lifts you. Sometimes, the greatest act of strength is walking away from those who never truly saw your worth. Elara's story reminds us that family isn't always blood, it's the people who stand beside you, believe in you, and help you rise. Never let the absence of approval define your value. Build your own table and invite those who uplift you. If Elara's journey inspired you, please support our channel USLA One Stories by subscribing, sharing with friends and loved ones, and leaving your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for listening until the end. See you in the next powerful story of courage and rebirth.